Hey there, what's going on? Welcome to the Pain Cave here at the triathlon.com world headquarters. This is where the magic happens, early in the mornings, over lunch, sometimes after work, whenever we can get it in. Here, today, we're going to talk about what I've gotten a few questions, especially kind of this off-season, post-season, pre-season, base period, COVID season, whatever you want to call it. People are stepping back, looking at a few things, looking at their equipment and seeing what they need possibly next year to do their half, their full, their other races and stuff. So today I wanted to talk about clip-on aero bars. Now I don't have any anymore, but when I started out in multisport, I was using a regular road bike such as this, regular handlebars, nothing fancy. Go down the drops, get my aerodynamic, they work just fine. But there is a step above that, because in the end, when you're looking at time trial bikes and triathlon bikes, they've got the handlebars out front, you've got the arm pads, so you're kind of leaned over in a nice aerodynamic position, trying to get as less surface area as possible, blocking the wind as you're riding your bike. So if you are going to stick with your road bike, which if you have a great road bike, perfectly serviceable, there's nothing that says you cannot do half iron, full iron, Olympic, or whatever without your road bike. So don't get discouraged. I'm not here to say you have to have a time trial bike. You don't have to. You could do a road bike, and you could do a road bike full Ironman without clip-on aero bars. One of my athletes, Jeff, did Ironman Chattanooga just fine in a road bike. He did it, I think, averaged over 19 miles an hour. So road bikes, full Ironman, you can do great. But if you're looking to get just a little bit more of an advantage, you can get clip-on aero bars. It's basically these bar extensions that you have on your tri-bike that clip onto a regular road bike. So when you're riding your road, you can be up here in a little bit more aerodynamic position, bringing you a little bit more forward. So it is possible, but there's a few things to consider that I want you to look at. Will you really use them? So if you're going to put clip-on aero bars on your road bike, are you going to use them? Are you going to use them all the time? There's just things to consider, because they stick out. They don't have brakes, they don't have shifters. You still got to use the handlebars for that on the road bike. So are you going to use it all the time, or are you going to use it specifically if you're training for races and long course races? During the week, you ride on the road with your friends, so you're going to take them on, put them off in the weekends, whatever you're going to do. So consider, are you really going to use them? Do you really want to use them in a race? Or if you do get them, try them out for a few times and then figure out, is this something you want to do long term with your road bike? Like I said, you don't need them to do long course racing. You can use the drops just fine. You can be on the handles, or you got to do, or on the hoods. What distance will it be for? Olympic probably doesn't make as much of an impact when you start getting to a 70.3 or full Ironman distance race. Having clip-on aero bars and being in more forward position, aerodynamic, bringing less surface area, blocking the wind, not being up in the hoods or in the bars even, it becomes more impactful the longer distance you're going. So if you're not going 70.3, 140.6, it may not be as necessary or integral to getting better economy or speed on the bike. So you do really need them. So that's the kind of checkpoint is, are you going to do that long distance? So you do really need them. When you're going through, and I've got my notes here, train with them. So if you do go with clip-on aero bars, I've said it with everything that I give tips and advice on. Use it in training. If you're going to throw your clip-on aero bars, don't throw them on the week before the race, then go out there and try it in the race. It is a bit different. You cannot steer your bike as well when you're in an aero clip-on bar position. Even on a tri-bike in aero, it is not as steerable when you're in that position. So if you're not used to it and you're not comfortable, you're not going to get there on race day, and you're already jacked up with adrenaline and anxiety and stress and everything else is going on race day. The last thing you want to do is be trying to figure out how to be in an aero position on your bike and being comfortable. It's not going to happen, especially other riders around. If you're going to be locked into doing aero clip-on bars, get them day one, train with them all the time, and make sure that you're comfortable with them. Not all of them are made the same. There are tons. If you look at my websites, I put in different links to different types of aero bars. I used to have some that count on, and then they were a complete single bar. It was just rounded at the end, and you held on to them. Some are just individual bars, like time trial bikes. Others, you can get all kinds of different complicated shapes to those. They call them the ski poles, where at the end they come up really high. You can get the ones where the pads are on springs, or I don't know how they're mounted on a hinge or something like that. So when you take your arms off, they fold up, so out of the way, so you can use the bars. And then you have to wedge your arms in there and get the pads to go down. Others have the pads like time trial bikes, or they're just stationary and just there all the time. So things to consider, especially if you're putting your Garmin gear on here. If you got them on your handlebars and you've got clip-on aero bars, you've got a little less real estate to work with to put your gear on. You need to figure out how to put that in there. So there's tons of different configurations of clip-on aero bars. So make sure you look through all the different options. If you got questions, put in the comments. I can kind of suggest kind of beginner level, and then kind of once you get to advanced, where the bars are kind of individual and they almost look like time trial bars. So make sure that you're doing your research and finding bars that work for you, and make sure you know those pads, if they automatically fold up, or if they're just out all the time and they're in that permanent position, or if they move. Personally, I started off trying to use the movable pads, and it was just unnerving. It didn't work very well because I just didn't feel stable. So I'd kind of recommend the stable pads, a permanent position for the pads if they're always down. So that's just something to look out for. So they're not all made the same, and that goes to also the distance and the lengths. So you don't want to get bars where you're stretched out too far and you're in a comfortable position and your back's in a bad position or anything like that. So make sure it works with your fit. There's really short stubby ones, there's really long ones, there's really wide ones, there's really narrow ones. Make sure you find some that have some adjustability in them. So if you need to move them back, forward, or whatever, you can move the pads back, you can move the bars back, wherever you're going to hang on to the bars. So just make sure that you got some adjustability factor in there, because you don't want the bars to be putting you in a position that is not feasible or sustainable over a long period of time. So make sure you're checking out the dimensions. And like I said, I mentioned the style of the arm pad. The handle style, like I said, there's some that come rounded at the ends, there's some that have the ski poles on them. So again, there's just so many different choices out there. I would suggest, if you're going to commit to this, look at the lower end. I mean, you can find a good set of new ones for $20, $30. Even go to your local bike shop. A lot of them have them kind of in the triathlon section on the racks or whatever, so you can upgrade and make your road bike a little bit more time trial friendly. So go in the low end, figure if that's what you want. If you do, and you found a good fit and you like it and you think you want to continue, then maybe that's the time you start looking into carbon fiber. I know Vision makes them, Zip makes them, everybody makes them. You can spend as much as $250 on clip-on aero bars for your road bike. So I recommend starting at the lower end and just testing it out, see if it's something you want to do. That way you haven't spent a bunch of money on something you may not be using that sits on your shelves or in your pain cave later and you don't ever use again. So start low, figure it out, and then go high. Also, the last thing I want to leave you with is make sure when you're buying them, you're getting the complete setup. You're not just getting the bars without the clamps. You need to have clamps that clamp to the head, to the bar, the main bar, and then you need the pulls that go on out of that. So sometimes they sell just the bar and there's no clamps with it, and you got to make sure that you're getting the clamps and the bar, and sometimes it's just the clamps, but in the picture it shows the whole thing. So make sure when you do your investigation and the stuff you want to use, you find one that has the entire setup, that has the clamps, the bolts, the bars, everything you want in there. And possibly, I mean, you might want to look for bar tape too, because over time, you know, on my time trial bike, I've got the bar tape on there too. So as you get time on there, it gets hot, your hands get sweaty and everything, they can slip around. But do remember that time trial bikes are a little bit different. You've got the shifters out front. With the clip-on aero bars, your shifters are still out on the road bike, on the handlebars. Shifters, brakes are still out here. So once you're in that aero position, you got nothing. You got no way of shifting, you got no way of braking, and you're just out there hanging on for dear life. So, like I said, get them early, try them out. Don't go expensive when you start out. Find out what works for you. Make sure you get some adjustability factor in there, especially if you're going to invest in a higher end set of clip-on aero bars. If you're going to go that direction, like I said, you don't need them. You could do a full Ironman on a road bike with no problem. You could be down on the hoods, you could be down in the drops, whatever it takes to get to the finish line. As long as you meet the time cutoff, nobody's going to DQ you for having a road bike out there. And of course, you go mountain bike. I've seen people riding the fatty mountain bike tires, whatever it takes to get through to the end. But if you're looking to maybe gain an edge, get a little bit more efficiency, and not fight the wind as much on the bike, clip-on aero bars is a good addition. Like I said, start low, find adjustability, make sure you get the style you want, make sure it comes with all the parts, and then get out there and train on it and see if that's something you want to do. So that's it for my quick little tidbit for today, because I've seen this kind of pop up a lot lately. People, like I said, the off season, they're looking, am I going to need clip-on aero bars, am I in different gear, what am I going to invest in, what do I need to learn about? So these are the things that I'm talking about that I get to see the most questions on. So, oh, we do have some questions. Oh, nope, people just watching. So anyway, if you do have questions, put them in the comments. I'll come back here and answer any comments you got on there. So again, If you got any questions in general, post them to the page. I always like doing videos to help people out. And hopefully your training's going good, and we'll see you out there on race day, whenever that is coming back.